everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Transform with Angels show. I'm excited to dive into a topic that feels especially relevant in today's world: the distractions that disconnect us. And then, how do we unify the great divide? To start, let's just reflect on one core truth of our entire existence. Unity is our true nature. Have you ever stopped to think about that? We are meant to be connected, not just to one another, but to life itself, to nature, to the planet, to the energy that binds us and binds the entire universe together. Connection truly is the remedy to conflict. Yet, as we look around, it looks like we are more divided today than ever before. If we go with this truth that oneness is who we are, then clearly we have lost touch with this essential truth. What happened to that interconnectedness that brings us peace and joy and evolution, where we support each other's growth and evolution? Instead, we're living in a world where we're tearing each other down and avoiding one another. Well, personally, it feels to me like there's an addictive nature to all the drama happening. And there's so much power in distraction. I felt it's really important that we start to become aware of this so that we can create the shift in our own worlds and not become a victim of it any longer. What if I told you we've become addicted to the drama? So many of us have gotten swept away by the narratives of conflict in the theater of life to the point where we've taken sides. We've attached to the characters in the story, making one the villain and the other one the hero, and we've truly forgotten the big picture. There's a quote by Shakespeare that says, "All the world is a stage, and we are merely players in it." But we've become so engrossed in this drama that we forgot the greater transformation taking place beneath the surface. Think of it like watching a play. We are so focused on the individual actors, the politicians, celebrities, the events, that we lose sight that the fact that the play itself is shifting and changing. We are truly witnessing the crumbling of outdated paradigms, old systems and processes that no longer serve us or the collective. And it's uncomfortable. There's an unseen transformation taking place. We can sense it. And now we're actually able to see some massive worldly events taking place that are moving this transformation into motion. The transformation on this planet has been happening for a very long time. And we are evolving as humans. The planet is changing and evolving. Look at the weather patterns taking place. To illustrate the point, imagine a caterpillar and what it must feel as it's watching the world crumble around it. The branches that it's used to crawl on are now shaking. The leaves are falling. And the once familiar environment is no longer safe. It doesn't feel safe to the caterpillar. From the caterpillar's perspective, it looks like everything is falling apart. But in reality, what is happening is the caterpillar is entering the chrysalis phase, the transformative moment when it becomes a butterfly. And we are all in the reinventing phase of transformation right now. This is exactly what's happening in the world right now. It may look chaotic, as if everything is breaking down, but the truth is, we are transforming to a higher version of ourselves, individually and collectively. But here's the challenge. There are so many of us that are getting distracted by the falling leaves. We're so focused on the drama, the wars, the politics, the endless cycles of conflict, that we're missing the profound transformation happening beneath the surface. What are some of the distractions that are disconnecting us and pulling us apart, you ask? Well, let's break down some of the major distractions that are keeping us disconnected from each other and from our own higher selves. How about the media-driven conflict? It seems the news no longer reports the news. It reports distractions. Wars, political divides, and social unrest are constantly being broadcast, which create fear and division. The truth is, humans are more evolved than this. Yet some of us haven't realized that power isn't the way to resolve conflict. We're being conditioned to focus on these lower vibrational events happening instead of seeing the broader picture, which is how each and every one of us is going through a chrysalis right now, growing wings and evolving through the chaos. Social media, another huge distraction. And the comparison that comes along with it. I mean, every day we are bombarded with images and opinions that keep us comparing ourselves to others. This false sense of connection is actually creating separation. It keeps us in like a competition and judgment instead of unity and collaboration. We're constantly looking at other people saying, wow, their life is great. Oh, they get to go on a beautiful vacation and I don't. Well, you have to remember, all social media is typically glorified. Very seldom do we post the negative things happening in our lives. I know I don't air my dirty laundry on social media. I do highlight the good happening, and I do feel like I have a lot of good happening. And I'm also here to spread love and kindness to help unify us. I believe this is one reason why I came to this planet at this time. I've been very passionate about change and transformation. And boy, oh boy, this is now becoming a playground for me. Some other distractions that are taking place are the consumerism and materialism. Think about that. We are so distracted by the pursuit of things, money, status, possessions, believing that those things will bring us happiness. But just like getting that new car that you're dying to have, it's a temporary fix. It disconnects us from what truly, truly matters, which is our relationships, having a sense of purpose, and our spirituality, our personal development, our growth and evolution. These are the things that we pride ourselves on, that truly make us feel fulfilled in life, not the material things. And then there's the fear-based thinking. Fear just keeps us in survival mode. Why do we choose to buy into it? Whether it's fear of the future, fear of the other one, fear of leadership, fear of failure, it separates us from love, which is the ultimate connector. And love is our true nature. So if fear separates us from love, it separates us from ourselves. Fear separates us from each other. There's a little something called the law of entropy. And it's basically why things, when left alone, fall apart. And why should you care? Well, let's talk about the law of entropy for a moment. The law of entropy states that anything left unattended over time will naturally descend into disorder. Now, you might be thinking, what does this have to do with me? Well, let me ask you, ever left your houseplants alone for a week or two, only to come back to a wilted jungle of despair? Yeah, that's entropy in action. Things fall apart when we stop paying attention to them, whether it's our homes, our health, or get this, even our mental well-being. So here's the deal. When we are so distracted to the point when we stop nurturing ourselves mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, we don't just stay in the same spot. We actually slide backwards. It's like the kid who plays video games constantly for hours and hours and hours, who forgets to eat and then ignores all his friends who are dying to play with him, who live right there in his neighborhood. We're so distracted. We have stopped nurturing ourselves. And this applies to our minds too. I mean, if you leave your thoughts unchecked, or unattended, or even on autopilot, which sometimes our brains have the capacity of doing, our thoughts tend to drift towards negativity, anxiety, even the chaos. We default to the negative, it seems like. Why? Why is that, I wonder? Well, my theory is it's because the mind, just like everything else, needs regular attention and upkeep. And if you're not careful, that mental clutter starts piling up until you feel overwhelmed, disconnected, and kind of out of sorts. But here's where it gets really interesting and kind of funny when you think about it. Entropy doesn't just apply to objects or spaces. No, it applies to relationships too. Ever notice how some friendships can wither away when you stop putting in the effort? Yeah, it's really kind of sad. It's like leaving your social life on low battery mode without connection and regular interaction. Even the closest relationship can deteriorate if we don't plug in once in a while. But I do love those relationships that when you do plug in, woo, it's like a full charge to your soul. Do you have any of those friendships? It's like time never passed. That's because the soul doesn't know time. Time is man-made. And therefore, the soul feels as if it was just with that person. That is the best connection ever. So do that often to uplift your spirit. Now more than ever, to let things like our relationships, our mental health, and our sense of purpose just kind of slip into a state of disrepair. We get caught up in social media and playing little games on our phones, in the news and the drama. And we forget that we are social creatures by nature. Isolation, both physically and mentally, leads us into a low energy space. It's a low vibe state of mind where we feel disconnected from ourselves and from each other. So don't let your life, your mind, or relationships go unchecked. You've got to create a sense of self-awareness at all times these days. And if you want to thrive, it takes active attention and energy. Tend to your thoughts, nurture your connections, and stay engaged with the world around you. Because if you don't, entropy will do its thing and pull everything to its lowest form. And none of us wants our lives looking like that sad little droopy houseplant, right? So what is the path to unity? How do we recover from the world of the great divide and disconnection and distractions? Now that we can become aware of the distractions, because that is the first step in transforming something. How do we overcome them and then unify this division? Well, here are some ways to realign with our true nature and cultivate connection. Because like I said, connection is how we remedy conflict. Number one, manage your energy. You know, the days where you have low energy and the days you have high energy, it is something you have absolute full control over. So do the things that keep your vibration high by focusing on the little joys in life. What are you grateful for? These things will raise your vibe. Becoming curious about something raises your vibration. Personal growth, learning, growing, all those things will raise your vibe. And when you maintain a high frequency, you attract more abundance, unity, happiness into your life. And boy, that is contagious. Here's a quick story. Over the weekend, I was cleaning up our flower beds in our front yard, listening to a webinar. I had my earbuds in, and I was kind of like in my own little happy world, pulling weeds, creating oneness with Mother Earth, you know. And then just out of nowhere, I was startled by a car pulling into our horseshoe driveway, which snapped me out of my meditative state of mind. I was like, what's happening? And this older woman gets out of the passenger seat of the car and introduces herself and notices the Maryland flag. Now, Brad, my husband, is from Maryland, and they're very proud of their state flag. And we have one displayed in our front yard. Yes, we do. And in our backyard. That's how proud Marylandtonians, whatever they call them, are of their flag. It is kind of a cool flag. But anyway, it caught the attention of these people who had to stop and meet us. I thought she was looking for directions, but it turns out she just wanted to see what part of Maryland we're from. Now I'm from Chicago, but I got into this conversation about Maryland, what little I know about it. And we had such a beautiful conversation. And, you know, I took my earpods out and really gave her my full attention. And it immediately shifted my attention to my neighbors, my new friends. We both left the conversation smiling and feeling uplifted. I mean, had I ignored the situation or blown her off, as we often do in life, to avoid connection, to avoid connecting with people, we miss out on these opportunities to raise our vibe through the power of connection. It was such a massive shift in my mood, even when I went back to doing my yard work. That's just an example that just happened that I became aware of. And I thought, gosh, we are so easily distracted and we never stop to connect with people. We walk through life with our earbuds in, connecting with our technology more than we connect with our fellow human beings. And I think that's something that we do have the power to change if we become aware of it. See the world through a new lens. Shift your perspective. Now, this is easier said than done. I get it. But instead of focusing on everything that is wrong in the world or bad, notice the newness that is developing from it. The subtle signs of change and growth. that are seeping through all the chaos. Transformation is messy, but it is happening. There is so much good change happening right now in the midst of all the chaos, but you have to look for it. And then you have to see it. And then you have to appreciate it. And that is a talent. That is a practice. That is a skill that each of us can begin to put into motion. It's important to practice emotional intelligence and learn to pause and reflect. That is the key. We can't just fly off the handle anymore. We have to rise above the circumstance, take a whole new perspective from the top down, and not react immediately to every little conflict. Okay. This allows you to respond with wisdom rather than from a place of ego or fear. If someone triggers you, instead of snapping back, just take a breath and ask yourself, all right, what is the lesson for me here? Look in the mirror first. What baggage am I carrying that is allowing me to be triggered by this? Because it's some unhealthy or unhealed version of yourself that allows you to be triggered in the first place. A highly evolved being notices the trigger and acknowledges where the wound is coming from, and then may even admit that there is an emotional wound that needs healed. But this is the stuff that's keeping us disconnected. And then just bring compassion into the moment. How can we bring more compassion into this space? And like I said before, focus on personal growth. As you grow internally, you become a role model for others. And this world needs more positive, optimistic role models. Lead by example, please. We need some leaders in life. And stop trying to fix others, but rather fix yourself and be a leader. That's the only thing that we can really do at this point, is focus on ourselves. You focus on your own growth, and you naturally attract people who are aligned with higher values. It's contagious. That's just the way life works. And as you grow, some of those unhealthy relationships will just kind of dwindle away, and you will attract new, exciting relationships that contribute to your growth, well-being, and that next version of who you are. So you get to create your own reality. The external world is a reflection of our internal state. I'm going to say that again. The external world is a reflection of our internal state. If you see the world as bad, fearful, chaotic, falling apart, what do you think is going to happen to your life? Rather, focus on creating abundance, joy, love. I know this sounds really kind of woo-woo, but the truth is, it will ripple out into the world and attract the life that you desire, a much happier life. Unless, of course, you like living in misery, then don't change a thing. We all can afford to surrender ourselves to a higher purpose as well. The ego wants control, but the soul seeks unity. And when you surrender to your higher self, your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, and trust that there is a divine purpose unfolding, wow, it takes all the pressure off of having to manage the ego and the outcome. So trust in your higher self. Trust that you came here for this reason. Because when you let go of the need to control outcomes, you open yourself to a flow of synchronicity and guidance that leads you to greater connection and peace. The universe can be a very magical, powerful place of manifestation if you learn how to use it, but it starts with your internal vibe. So embrace the full spectrum of life. Life is filled with contrast. We see it all around us, the light and the dark, the joy and the sorrow. Embrace all of it. Embrace all of it. It's part of the human experience. This allows you to stay connected to the whole rather than separating yourself from the parts that make you uncomfortable. As we come to the end of today's discussion, I want to speak directly to those of you who are struggling with the pain of losing connection, whether it's with family, friends, or loved ones. I know that when relationships drift apart, it can feel isolating, like pieces of your heart are scattered in places you just can't reach. But I want to remind you of this profound truth. Healing starts within, and it takes a conscious effort. The bridge to unification always begins in your own heart. As always, I want to provide you with an affirmation to help guide you back to that place of inner strength and connection. So if you'll repeat these words after me and feel them so that you magnetize them into your truth, your existence, and your reality. I release the pain of separation and choose to open my heart to healing. I let go of distractions that have kept me from the people I love. I am a vessel of unity, understanding, and compassion. As I rise, I invite others to rise with me. Together, we rebuild the bonds that make us whole. Take a deep breath and let that truth sink in. Reflect on the power you hold, even in your pain. You have the ability to be the light that brings others back into connection. Healing doesn't mean erasing the past. It means growing through it, choosing love over division, and opening your heart to the possibility of mending what's been broken. Thank you for being with me today. And just remember, as the world is transforming, so are you. And you have the power to unify the divide within yourself and with those you care about. Let's rise together with love as our guide and rebuild the connections that truly matter. And before I say goodbye, I just want to let you know that if you're wanting some guidance on how to navigate these turbulent times, you can go to my website and download my free ebook, How to Conquer Anything. Just go to transformwithangel.com. And while you're there, check out the self-mastery courses that will aid you in personal growth, that will help you connect to yourself, which will in turn help you connect with life and others so that we can bridge the great divide. It's important that you invest in yourself so that life will in turn invest in you. Thanks again for joining me today. Sending you nothing but love. Go out there and be your best self. I'll see you next time.